So what's going on, guys? My name is MrDalekJD. Thank you for joining me, where today we are going to be discussing more of Treyarch'S mysteries, and this is with the latest loading screen that we got in the Call of Duty Zombies comic. Now, when I originally covered this a few days ago, that was one of the first videos up about it, and it's so different when you look at a loading screen and think for yourself, compared to when hundreds of thousands of people have seen it and they have their own ideas. And there's been one thing about the loading screen that has been really just picking my brain because I can't put my finger on it, and I want to sort of basically jump through some theories and see if we can crack on why this is in here and if we can get to the bottom of it. And this is talking about why Ultimis Richtofen, which is the old Richtofen, is with our primis crew. Now, a lot of you guys pointed out in the comment section, and it really does make a lot of sense now. If we look in the bottom right, we can see the map on where it's jumping from towards the UK, which is apparently Sheffield, where the house is supposed to be based in. It honestly looks like our characters are jumping from Gorod straight away to the house, but as we know how things play out, in Gorod we send up the souls from the summoning key, and then they get teleported straight into the house in the basement, rather than them just walking up to the front door and knocking to say hello and go inside. That's something I really just can't fathom. I don't understand where that fits in, because straight away from Gorod we send the souls up, and then we enter the house via teleporting in the basement, both the souls as children and as the primis crew. There's never been a point where we've been outside the house before like this, and I can't for the life of me work it out why. But the fact that they've teleported from Gorod is incredibly interesting, and this could be a timeline where, I don't know, maybe they've decided that they have seen how things normally happen in Gorod and then starting to change what happens. But the main thing is why Ultimis Richtofen is in this in the first place. It doesn't make any sort of sense. Now, I have some little things here and there that I want to explain, which hopefully can make a little bit more clearer as to why. But if you guys have any other theories on why Ultimis Richtofen is here, then definitely let me know. Now, as we know from the events of Origins and the Giant, there was a 2-year gap in between where Richtofen was gallivanting around various dimensions, collecting the summoning key as well as the chronorium. Now, in that time, the primis crew were obviously left to their own devices, as Richtofen wasn't there to really communicate with them or tell them what to do. So in that 2 years, they could have gone and done whatever they wanted, and possibly they went to find Ultimis Richtofen before the events of the Giant. Because we know that the primis crew do form a plan to stop Ultimis Richtofen during the 2-year gap between Origins and the Giant, and potentially what could have happened is while Richtofen was going around in one dimension, the primis crew could have tried to sort of befriend this version of Richtofen and use him for a certain purpose, and I don't know what that purpose could be exactly when it involves the house, but that could be one explanation. Now, a really great theory, which does really tie in at least somewhat with the order in which we see these loading screens, is that the Ultimis Richtofen that we're seeing in this could in fact be Samantha in Richtofen's body from Moon. Now, if we look in the timeline, we can see that the previous loading screen is not the remade Nuketown screen, but the original one. Now, Nuketown takes place far into the future along the exact same time as Moon does. We know it does because as soon as we launch those rockets, they hit Earth. One of those rockets specifically hits Nuketown right at the end of every game. So you know that the events of Moon and the transference of souls in the bodies occurs directly then. If we use that idea and how this is the next step in that story from that, then potentially we could be seeing Richtofen, but with Samantha in Richtofen's body. This changes things completely, because if this is the case, then we finally have our first ever continuation of the Moon ending, where we had no idea what happened with those sets of characters on the Moon, including Samantha in Richtofen's body. But we know that the original Samantha, of course, is in the house. So if the original one, which we see in the house, the one that's been there all the time, then what's to say that the other version of Samantha, which occurred in a different timeline, being the World War I Black Ops 1 Ultimus timeline, could still be occurring here, and we could have Samantha in Richtofen's body. it would be amazing and would make a ton of sense, allowing Treyarch to finally explain a slight continuation in one timeline of the events of Moon, because they are pretty damn important. And in my opinion, that would help tie things up quite nicely. Now, there is still a lot of confusion, because if that isn't the same Richtofen that we're seeing here, then it's more than likely the Richtofen we see in the giant intro cutscene. But as we all know, he died. We killed that version of Richtofen, so how is he here? And if we specifically look at the map coordinates and where our characters are traveling to, we know that all these events happened after, because we know Gorod Krovi happens after the Giants. So why this is there, it's confusing, but there's something that's been found pretty recently in the community which is really damn intriguing, and it surprised even me that we've not realized this before. And during the giant intro cutscene, there is a slight bit where if you slow down the video to about half speed, you can hear what sounds like a strange voice talking to Richtofen, saying press it when he's about to press the button to open the teleporter. Now, we obviously know that Ultimis Richtofen has grown up with voices inside his head, and we learn in Black Ops 3 that those voices are in fact the Shadow Man talking to Richtofen. So it's quite clear to link together that this is more than likely the Shadow Man that's telling Ultimis Richtofen to press the button during the giant intro cutscene. Now, something that I've thought for a while, I'm sure a lot of you will agree, is that when Richtofen 1.0 faces Richtofen 2.0, it looks like he already knows that he's about to die, and he's fully prepared and sort of wants to die in the most honourable way by taking off his hat to honour Richtofen and his death. Like, to me, it feels like he already knew it was coming and he was fully prepared for what was going to happen. But of course there is a counter argument to that, of course, where during the intro, Richtofen himself asks the Primis crew, "Do you know who I am?" Which makes you wonder if he even knew that this Primis version of our characters even existed in the first place. So with that knowledge, I feel like the Ultimis Richtofen we are seeing is definitely not the same one that we interact with during the Giants intro, because obviously this Richtofen knows a lot more. I do honestly think the idea of the Richtofen from Moon with Samantha in Richtofen's body is the most plausible, because if we look to Black Ops 3's story overall during the normal DLC season of maps, Samantha was incredibly distant and almost non-existent in that story. She was just Samantha as the little girl in the house. But as we look in the timeline, we know from the events of Buried, she's noticed that Max's father was corrupted by the Dark Ether. She witnessed the evil that had corrupted him, and when a rift opens in Dimension 63, which is the Origins dimension, she then reaches out to that timeline's Maxis for help. And then that changes the shift in dynamic for Samantha for the entirety of the storyline, because she's no longer this almighty powerful girl trapped inside the MPD. She's just a simple girl in the house waiting for more children to arrive so she can play with them. And it's obvious that the children and the souls are important and integral to the story, but they weren't ever really used inside of Black Ops 3, which is why I believe that in Black Ops 4 or whatever the next game is by Treyarch, they're going to incorporate the innocence and the sort of existence of the children for a much bigger purpose. But imagine this, we have Samantha in the house, and then she meets Richtofen, who is Samantha inside of Richtofen's body. A crazy paradox. I don't know what the reasoning would be for Samantha meeting Samantha inside Richtofen's body, but to me it just feels like a wasted opportunity from Treyarch's point of view for them not continuing on the story arc of what happens with Samantha in Richtofen's body, because the canon story is at the end of Buried, Richtofen's actual soul gets put into the body of a zombie, or at least our Ultimis version. But there is so many multiverses now, so many different timelines, that honestly anything is possible in zombies now, because it can be as complicated as it wants. There's so many different variations of events that occur and exist that perhaps even Samantha and Richtofen's body visiting the house isn't even that much of a far stretch, especially when you incorporate the fact that the original Nuketown screen is what comes before the events of this. Hopefully that's injected some awesomeness into your brain and got your mind swirling on what this could mean. Again, if you guys have any ideas, drop them in the comments, but if you did enjoy the video in any capacity, then feel free to drop a like rating. I'd really appreciate that. Feel free to subscribe as well for more zombie content like this, and I'll catch you guys next time.